Lumineers, and welcome back to the Lorcana Rundown. I'm Andrew.
I'm Silver.
And today it's going to be a little bit of a weirder episode. Silver's not feeling the greatest due to allergies, so you're probably going to hear a lot of me more than anything, but we're going to make it through. So the big news coming out that's coming out is there was actually a couple bigger tournaments that happened over the past couple days. I know there was one that was like $1,000 prize one. You said it was out of Tennessee?
Yeah, so there was a 1K cash tournament in Tennessee, and then there's also been, over the past couple weeks, an online tournament organized by the Discord server Lorcana HQ, which has been using Tabletop Simulator on Steam. So that's had quite a few players, and they finally got down to the top 8 this week. This morning, they posted the winning decks.
Oh, okay.
And no great surprise at this point, but your favorite, Ruby Amethyst Control, took it. The finals were a mirror match of red-purple and red-purple. The biggest distinguishing characteristic between the two decks is the deck that won was 60 cards. The deck that came in second was 64 cards.
So not too much of a difference. I know in my experience of using the control deck, I prefer to run with more cards, like over the 60 card limit, so going to 62, 64, just because if you're going against another control matchup, it can be until whoever decks out. So having those extra cards does help. Plus, you do a lot of card draw with that deck in general.
And I think that's one of the reasons that the deck that actually won is only 60 cards. If I remember the deck list correctly, that one does not run Magic Mirror at all.
Yeah,
which is surprising because Magic Mirror puts in a lot of work for control decks because that's how you're constantly refilling your hand. Anytime you have 4 available ink, you're putting it into Magic Mirror.
For sure. And it is one of those cards that really, really, really helps with, again, getting your hand refilled up. It's great in the late game when you're around, sometimes you'll get up to like the 12, 13, 14 ink and you just need cards. You're just pumping them right into Magic Mirror just to get the extra card draw going, and it helps so much.
So one thing we are seeing in these competitive control decks is people are running Ursula's Cauldron and Magic Mirror so they can set up that draw more reliably.
Yeah, and if you want to know what Ursa's Cauldron does, you exert it and you look at the top 2 cards of your deck and you choose to keep one on top and put one on the bottom. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, this allows you kind of like to really look at the top cards of your deck and try to stack them in your favor in a sense. It's really helpful when you're playing control, because if you really need that be prepared and it was not coming until the second, your second to last turn of living, in a sense, you can really put that on top, draw it, then play it.
It also doesn't require an ink investment after the item is played, which is really nice because there's no downside to checking the top of your deck.
Yeah.
Even if it's just planning your next turn ahead. So these purple red decks, I keep calling them purple red because otherwise I get Amethyst and Amber mixed up way too easily.
Sure.
They definitely make good use of the items in their decks. Another thing I'm seeing with these control decks is they make really good use of the 7-drop Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, so the one that shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he banishes a character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore and your opponent loses 2 lore.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're putting him in with the pocket watch that you can exert to give characters rush.
Yeah.
So they're throwing that in there, rushing him in to get that immediate lore exchange. And then you've still, in most trades, because he's a 5-body, got him on your next turn for a potential lore gain.
Yeah, that's a really big point because it's a good way to kind of finish games as well, because it can be pretty aggressive in the late game. there have been moments where I've played that deck where I've been able to Aladdin and get rid of something and, take those 2 lore away, and it kind of puts the opponent in a really rough spot because maybe they were going to win that next turn, and then I take away the 2 lore. But no, it also, a couple other things that I really like about the deck list, which we will have these posted in probably in the description of some of the deck lists that were there. I know we have 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. I don't know if we have 1st place yet. But the nice thing about these decks is it also runs things like Gaston and Maui. Now, these 2, they don't have any lore because they're 4-2 reckless. Or like Gaston's a 4-2 reckless. So that means if it can challenge, it has to challenge. And then Maui is a 6-5 reckless and rush. I really like that in the Ruby Amethyst deck because it's a good it's a good form of removal. Those characters really just, no one really sees them a lot of the time. They just come out randomly and you're just like, well, all right, you're getting rid of my main lore gainers. It's really nice.
So stepping away from the big red-purple decks for a minute, I do want to talk about a card that people, including myself, are probably not playing to its best, and that's Befuddle.
Yeah.
Befuddle is a 1-cost inkable card that returns target card, basically, to its owner's hand. Cost 2 or less. You can use that on items.
Yeah.
Which is really something I was not taking advantage of in my games against Andrew, and I run a full playset of them in my purple-green deck. And after watching some of these matchups for the Lorcana HQ tournament, I just was blown away by how much of a difference it can make when you're actually bouncing back those pocket watches or bouncing back the cauldron, because that ruins their ability to sort of get their engine going.
Yeah, befuddling items and stuff like that is really, really, really solid. Because it does disrupt them, and it also will make them think, okay, well, if they're going to befuddle my item, do I use, depending on what the item is, if it can be inked, you may end up inking that item for something different. It just changes their entire game plan, and Befuddle, I think, is definitely an underrated card that needs to be looked at more and more.
So Purple Green was, I think, the 3rd place deck.
Mm-hmm.
Quite different from the list I run. I'm going to be taking some notes here. It runs 4 of the Elsas, which surprised me. I don't run any Elsas in my deck, but apparently being able to exert your opponent's characters is good. Who knew? Who knew?
Well, it's good to exert them. That way you can kind of challenge them down and get...
Who knew? It's like how I have no respect for Rush as a mechanic, but here we are. And the other deck that kind of made some waves was a Sapphire Ruby items deck. And this one's weird because it's not an aerial combo.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll have, like Andrew said, the deck lists in the comments, but this one I think I want to take a deeper dive into maybe next week or in our gameplay, because it's interesting how they combine the item ramp into big fat Tamatoas with the removal package of Maleficent. I don't see a lot of people taking advantage of Tamatoa, and that's one of the cards I was really excited about when I first saw it spoiled, because he gets an additional lore every item you've got.
Yeah. And
Sapphire has so many cheap items, like Scepter of Arendelle, 1 lore. Or not 1 lore, 1 ink. Fishbone Quill.
Magic Golden Flower.
Coconut
Basket. The list can go on.
But Sapphire likes items. Sapphire has ink ramp. Tamatoa only costs 8 ink. You can easily have that, turn 5?
Depending on your hand, yeah, you could definitely have that out turn 5 at the earliest, I would think.
Plus, that gives you access to Robin Hood. It gives you access to the Ruby Aladdin. And, of course, the wonderful removal package that Ruby has in Maleficent and Be Prepared.
And Dragonfire.
And Dragonfire. Though Dragonfire and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship. Because Dragonfire is great in that it's a 5-ink removal.
Yeah.
No questions asked, you banish the character. But it's 5-ink and it's uninkable, and in a lot of cases, if you're using that on something that's got less than 5 body, you may as well have played a character with Rush.
Yes and no. So, in my opinion, I like Dragonfire where it's at because, one, there's not a lot of direct, hey, banish cards out there. You got to utilize your characters, whether they have Rush or not, to be a part of your removal. It's why I like this game so much, because you do have to utilize that as part of your removal. Another thing that is nice about Dragonfire is you're 9 times out of 10, if you're using it on turn 5, you need to use it on something that is literally going to be a big disruption. 9 times out of 10 when I'm using Dragonfire, I'm not using it until later game. I'm holding on to it because I want to see what the big thing is coming out. Once you lay down that bigger card that I really want to get rid of, like if someone's playing an Aladdin, I want to get rid of that Aladdin. Or if they're playing the Mickey Mouse, the BLT one, I'm going to want to target that. That's how I utilize Dragonfire. I hold on to it and wait. When you're playing Control, if you're like anything that's anything that's using Ruby, because Ruby is definitely a control color in my opinion, you have to be patient. You have to hold on to the cards and hold on to your removal and wait for the right time. That's kind of like how you play Control in just about any game.
Which is why I am never a successful Control player. I play Brutes in Flesh and Blood. I play Red Deck Wins in Magic. I tend to play sort of more turbo-aggressive decks in Pokemon, so...
Yeah.
Control and I just don't fly well.
No, I can understand that. I mean, Control is definitely something that's really good to learn because it kind of gives you a wider perspective of the game. And I do want to say that I like the fact that these tournaments, that it wasn't just a whole lot of amber than other color aggro decks going through and winning. I like seeing the more Control and mid-rangey decks getting out there and getting some love out there. And I'm just excited to see competitive tournaments for this game. It makes me want to be in them.
So I think we should actually cut it there for now, just because my voice is starting to go.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll definitely try to get some gameplay video out this week if possible. Also looking forward to just talking more about these decks and more of these tournaments as they come out. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for the Lorcana rundown this week, or for today at least. So yeah, guys, have a good week. I'm Andrew.
I'm Silver, and hopefully I'll still be Silver when we see you later this week for another episode. Have a good one.
Have a good one, all.